Hi friends. Now before I start, let me take you a journey back when I was in year 6. Now when I was young, I used to read like a lot of books. For example, there was this series called Mr. Midnight, and I think there were about like 126 books inside that series. And luckily, it was in the library of my school, and every day I would take one book and complete it on the same day, and the next day I would return it and I'll get another book. So when I was young, I was basically reading 5 books in 5 days, and I completed all of the 126 books. But as time went on, I kind of just like lost my desire of reading, and textbooks became my new storybooks. And I didn't actually read any storybooks when I was like in high school or even in college. But now in 2022, I've started to read some books. I think I've read about like 5 books right now in 2022, and I'm trying to build a habit of reading, and I've learned some few tips which you can implement if you want to read more. So here they are. Now my first tip is about being consistent. Now if you're trying to just get started in reading, I wouldn't suggest you to like focus on like how many books you should read in a year, but instead you should think at like a smaller scale. You should like just think about reading like 20 pages every day. So if you actually build a habit of reading 20 pages every day, by the end of the year, you'll be reading 30 books at the end, which is quite cool. But like even if you don't read 20 pages every day, but instead you read like 10 pages or 5 pages, that is also fine. But just try to implement the habit of reading few pages every single day. And that is basically what I do. Before I watch like Netflix at night and then go to bed, I would just like take about like 30 minutes to like read 20 pages of a book, or even like 10 pages. And then when I have the achievement of like, yes, I have like read 20 pages of a book, then I would like watch my Netflix, and then I would go to bed after that. There's tons of like PDFs you can find online for books, which is fine. And then another thing I would like to say is that reading should be a hobby, not a chore. Now what I mean by this is that if you have started to like read a book, and if you feel like it's boring, it's fine to like just chuck your book away and like read something else. That is completely fine. Like when I was young, right, I used to like think that like I should like read every single word and like read every single like chapter in like the book, but that doesn't really matter. Like essentially you should like just be reading for the fun of it. Be reading because it makes you like happy. There shouldn't be a pressure on you to like read like classical books or like non-fiction books. Honestly, if you like fictional books, just read fictional books. And like if you like classical books, go and read classical books. If you like sci-fi, go and read that. But like as you continue reading, your choice of genre will also change as time goes along, which is fine. Like just don't be pressured by other people to like read a specific book, but just like read whatever you want. And I would also like to say that whenever like you're reading like non-fictional books and like you feel it's quite important, you should like highlight all of the important stuff. I read like PDFs online on my laptop, so what I would do is that if there's anything important, I would like just highlight on the important stuff, and then I would like copy and paste it into my Notion database with all of my books I've read and stuff like that. So like that will help my future self, and like my future self will say like thank you to my past self. Because like you should not just like store information inside your brain, because you're most likely going to forget it. So it's better to like just store it inside somewhere else. And like if you just started reading, I suggest maybe you can like start reading like fictional books, because like fictional books are like nice, and maybe that'll get you into the habit of like reading. And another thing I'm going to talk about is audiobooks. Now a lot of people, they use like audiobook to correspond to like Audible, because Audible has this huge collection of audiobooks. But I also realized like recently that you can find a lot of audiobooks in YouTube. So basically what you should do is that, so instead of like using Audible, you should try and like just search up the book name and put audiobook inside YouTube. And I think there's quite a high chance that there's actually an audiobook for that book on YouTube, which you can just listen to, which is quite cool. Like I did that for some of my books. And another app is Goodreads. Now Goodreads can be quite addicting to some people, so I suggest like to not be so addicted using Goodreads. But basically in Goodreads, what I do is that I would like set a goal, like how many books I can like read in a year or something like that. And if you want, you can do that, but it doesn't really matter. And basically in Goodreads, you can add like any book which you have read in Goodreads. And like that's the only reason why I use Goodreads, just for like the extra motivation of like adding a book inside Goodreads and then seeing like the counter increases by 1, and I move on to the next book. So Goodreads is quite nice. And like if you feel a book is not really interesting, it is fine to like just skim through the chapters and like see if like it gets more interesting or not. Or like if it doesn't really get more interesting, then like you can just chuck the book away and like pick up another book, which is fine. So it's fine to like skim chapters and all that. And like if you don't plan on finishing the book, you can like read tons of like reviews and like summaries like online, which like talks about the gist of that book. And like Tim Ferriss, he also made like a good video about how you can speed read in a book if you like plan on speed reading. And I'll link the video inside the description below, so if you want you can check that out. And Jordan B. Peterson, he also mentions on like the importance of reading.
Book is like a portrait as opposed to a photograph. You know, a photograph, it's click, that's that. A portrait you layer on and layer on and layer on and work over on for weeks. You still have the same single image, but there's this depth to it. And a book enables you to think and then rethink and think and then rethink. And so you can go deeper in a book than you can, I would say, in any other medium.
And like it's nice to also like read at night, because like I feel like reading fictional books at night, it can be like a really good like stress reducer, and it can really take your mind off away from problems. It's quite nice. So if you want, you can like just pick a specific time on like reading, and like you can read at night if you like. And like being consistent in reading is quite tough, especially when you're getting started. And there's sometimes where like I just like forget to read. And there's another like good YouTuber, Matt Diavella, where he talks about like the 2-day rule, where like when you forget to read on a specific day, try not to forget to read like twice in a row. Alright, that's it for this video, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.